Welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned entrepreneur, here to help you navigate the messiness of mom life and biz life. Each week, my guests and I will share our experiences, insights, and tips to help you move your business from survival mode to success mode. So grab your favorite drink and let's dive in, because this girl means business. All right, guys, welcome back to our Business Besties monthly episodes. I'm Kendra Swalls, and I'm here with my business bestie, Katie Brinkley. Hi, Katie.
Hey, Kendra. And for those that are watching us on the YouTube or checking out any social media clips, I am wearing an amazing jersey in this episode because my lighting just would not work out unless I had this jersey on. So for those of you listening to the podcast, you're going to have to go check us out on YouTube and see this awesome jersey that I have.
The magical jersey that, for whatever reason, has completely changed the lighting in your room.
It has completely changed my lighting. But one of the things that I love about these episodes, Kendra, is it allows us to kind of showcase a little bit of our entrepreneur journey, some of the mistakes that we've made, some of the do-overs that we'd like to have, and some of the tricks and tips that we have found have helped us level up our businesses. So excited to join you on this month's Business Besties episode.
Yeah, well, I'm even more excited because hopefully soon, in a few days, we'll get to do another one of these live together, which is super exciting. You're actually traveling here to Dallas. So I'm excited to see you in person, in real life, and not just through a screen.
I know. And this is one of the things we've talked about this on past episodes about the connections that you can make online these days. I mean, I remember there was a time not too long ago that I was at a Colorado Avalanche game with my uncle, and there was something that said Zoom on the side of one of the hockey rink. He said, "What is Zoom?" And I was like, "Oh, it's for like video conferencing." And nowadays, everyone's heard of Zoom. Everyone's, like Skype kind of, but I mean, like all of these possibilities have happened because of the pandemic. People are more willing to make these connections through a screen and, become best friends with somebody that lives in an entire different state than you. But one of the things I want to talk about in today's episode is something that you and I also kind of were on different sides of the fence until recently. Now, the conversation I want to talk about today is batching. Yes, batching your content. And one thing that you did that I did not do was batch your reels. You created all of your reels and kind of saved them in a spot. But before we dive into too much into why you should batch, just why don't you explain really quick what batching is, and then we can kind of go down why you should schedule your content in batches.
Yeah. So batching your content just means that you are creating like a decent amount of content, a bulk of content all in one sitting. So instead of saying like, I'm going to create a social media post, one post a day, every single day, you maybe sit down on Monday and you create all your content for that week. And it's not just for social media. Like we'll talk a lot about social media batching today in this episode, but it can be done for email marketing, for blog content, video content, podcasting, like what we're doing today. Like you can batch content anywhere in your business that you're creating content. And the benefit of it is that you can utilize times when you're most creative, times when you have a quiet workspace, times when, maybe you have more time to focus on something, or maybe it's when you have good lighting for recording videos. So you record them all right then, or your hair and your makeup's finally done. So you do it all right then. So instead of trying to do it one little piece per day or per week, you're doing it all at one time. And it just helps to kind of save time and helps you to not have to worry so much every single day about, oh, what am I going to post today? I don't have anything done. It gives you a little bit of peace of mind.
Well, and exactly, it gives you peace of mind. But I definitely feel like for me, especially, it gives me that opportunity to enjoy social media again. I mean, I batch my podcast, I batch my social media, but batching my social media is a huge game changer for me to actually go in and enjoy using the platforms as a user. So I'm not just sitting there feeling like I'm a content creator, like running on the hamster wheel. So I have 4 steps to having a successful content batching system. And the very first one is creating your content pillars. I definitely feel like before you begin batching, having those defined content pillars make it so much easier for you to actually gets that I call it the skeleton kind of in place.
Yeah, the framework.
And then you can kind of go in and fill in the meat and all the good stuff. So talk to us about different content pillars that you currently use.
So first of all, I want let's define what content pillars are. I think that it is basically the topics that you are going to be creating content around. So for example, with my content pillars, I have roughly 5, if you include my podcast, because I have podcast topics and episodes. And then I talk a lot about like social media marketing, email marketing, branding and marketing in general, just kind of relationship marketing. And then there's also mom life. So I talk about like my behind the scenes. What is it like being a mompreneur? What is it like being, a business owner, entrepreneur, those kinds of things. So those are my basic content pillars. And then I can then create content inside of each pillar. And it helps to give me a nice, even though it's not like every Monday I post about social media and every Tuesday I'm posting about email marketing or whatever, but it gives me a nice framework, or like you said, kind of a skeleton to go in and go, okay, I'm going to do one of each of these different pillars. And that way I know I'm going to have a good variety, a good mix of content. It keeps me from straying off. It keeps me from that shiny thing syndrome where it's like, oh, I saw somebody post this really cool, meme the other day. Let me post that meme. Well, no, it doesn't fit in my pillars. So it doesn't need to, it can maybe go on my stories. That's fine. But it helps me as an Enneagram 7 to stay focused and not get distracted and start posting about things that don't really fit into what my audience is looking for.
All of a sudden you're posting a picture of what you had for breakfast.
Yeah.
Wait a second. How does that really align with mom life or anything? But that's the thing. When you sit down and create these content pillars, the themes really should be about your business, your industry, or your area of expertise. And I always recommend kind of writing them down, because when you're first getting started, you can find yourself getting stuck into that rabbit hole of like, okay, well, now I'm just going to do another tip, or now I'm just going to do another, current sale, or go to the website for this reason. So when you have these content pillars, it makes it easy for you to see like, okay, well, on Monday, I just posted a link to book a call with me. I probably shouldn't do that again that week. Maybe move it to next Thursday or something. So that way, when you have all these different content pillars, you can get the idea of the skeleton. So you're not posting the same thing time after time after time. Now, when you're in the middle of a launch, that's an entirely different conversation that we will have on another episode. But defining those content pillars, I definitely feel is step 1. Step 2 is taking a look at what your past posts have done. So really diving into your existing posts, what posts worked well and which ones kind of had a swing and a miss on. And it also works too for looking at competitors. I think looking at their past posts as to what has worked well and what has kind of missed the mark on.
So I'm curious, hold on, do you track that? I mean, other than looking into like your insights and seeing like, okay, this posted really, really well, or this one didn't do so well, even though I thought it might. Do you like track those in any other way, or like the competitor content? How are you organizing that?
So there are tools out there. I know Agorapulse has great social listening software. I don't use Agorapulse. Someday I would like to move over to that system just for the social listening aspect, but there's a number of different softwares out there. I've talked about Flick numerous times. And one of the things that I like about Flick is that you can actually analyze all of your posts and all of your hashtags that have worked. So obviously this is kind of more of an Instagram specific strategy, but you can look at past hashtags that have worked. You can save, like, so I'll save a lot of my competitors' hashtags and I'll run reports on what hashtags have worked well for them so that I can then go and incorporate them into some of my posts or some of my clients' posts. I think that there's other apps out there. I think there's an app called Plan, and it'll give you an idea of like the different content types that engage and excite your audience the most. But one of the things with this is, it's more than just hashtags. What time was the content released? What type of post did you? So for me, my reels on Monday night, they do the best. It's better than if I post a reel on Thursday at 9 a.m. Now, one of my competitors, she posts her reels at 6 a.m. on Mondays. I've tried that. My audience doesn't go for it. So you have to really look at what has worked well for you. You can do that competitor analysis, but once you kind of figure out, okay, reels Monday night, between 7 and 9 p.m. That's when I need to push out my reel. I'm not going to be posting a carousel post or a single image on those Monday nights. I know that reels are the best thing to use. So looking at what worked well in the past. And I mean, you can still go back and look like, was it a video? Was it a graphic? Was it a carousel? And kind of tweak your content based on that. But again, like Kendra, you do a ton of reels. So, I mean, I would be looking at, okay, this reel got 10,000 views at Tuesday at 3 p.m. This reel was at 1 p.m. on Tuesday and it kind of tanked. Was it the audio? Was it the hashtags? And that's where you can kind of do that direct analysis of looking at, okay, I'm going to use the exact same hashtags that I used for the 1 p.m. reel, post this reel at 3 p.m. and see what happens. And you can kind of base it, do that comparison off of that. It kind of sounds like a lot, but really it's only 1 month of really diving into the analytics.
Well, and this is where like I think it's fun because it becomes a little bit of like a puzzle to solve. Is like the example you gave of, okay, you post a reel at, would you say 3 p.m. on a Tuesday and it does really well, but you posted one the following week at 1 p.m. because maybe you were not available at 3 p.m. to engage or whatever, and it tanks. You could easily say, okay, it was the timing, but there's so many other factors. It's the content, it's the audio, it's the caption, it's, did you share it to stories? Did you not? There's so many different factors that it's kind of fun to play with. And this is another thing that I like to do is I like to go back through my old content. Like you were saying, like go back and look at what's done well. But then sometimes I'll take the ones that either did well or even the ones that didn't do well. And I'm like, well, maybe if I present it in a different way. And so if I take something that was maybe just a static image post and I'm like, this had a really good message to it, but it just didn't get a whole lot of reach. And then I will use that same idea, but in a different format, whether it's a carousel or a reel or something like that. And so just because something didn't perform well, I don't want you to like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like I want you to also look and go, okay, what parts of this do I still think my audience needs? And just how can I tweak a few things so that maybe it gets the love that it really deserves.
For sure. And I think, this is where having, somebody on your team that's really looking at the insights for your social media can make a difference, because I mean, it's obviously like I work in social media, but at the same time, I think that when you're just pushing out content after content, you're like, I'm not getting any leads. Well, why? Because is it what you're pushing out? Is it because you're not posting at the right time? Are you always posting links to, just work with you? Are you not giving any value? So you really need to have those content pillars figured out. You really need to look at, what is working. Look at your past posts and see what worked, what really worked, and what kind of, again, you swung on and missed.
Yeah.
Step 3, brainstorming your post topic. So once you have your content pillars established and you've looked at your previous posts, I'd always like to go in and think of fresh content ideas. So I have it on my notes of my phone. So a lot of times I'll be watching different Instagram, we're scrolling through the Instagram feed or scrolling through a TikTok or LinkedIn posts. I do a lot of reading. There's a lot of different newsletters that I subscribe to, and I'll write all those down in my notes. And anything from like the latest Instagram update, okay, should I try and do a trending audio and talk about the latest Instagram update? Or, should I try and write a blog post or do a podcast about, this Instagram update? Is it enough that it needs that, that robust of a conversation created about it? So I think that when you look at what's happening and there's a number of tools out there, I like Answer the Public. Sometimes like I'll go to answerthepublic.com and I'll just type in like latest Instagram update, and it'll give me what all the search terms are, the most common search terms for that exact keyword phrase. From there, I can just go in and be like, okay, so people are really asking, why did Instagram do another update? Okay, that's going to be my header for this next, social media post.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite parts of like content creation is the like curating things. And so I use a program called Asana where I organize all of my content pillars. And what I'm doing is I'm constantly adding to those pillars when I see ideas. Like you said, you were using the Notes app on your phone. So it's the same concept. I'm just putting them into a different platform. And so I loved what you said earlier. I wrote it down, the phrase social listening. I think that is such an important thing because it's one thing for us to sit down and go, okay, what do I want to talk about this week on my Instagram or on my podcast? But if you're constantly listening and looking for what are people actually asking for, then you are then able to create content that makes them go, oh, I was just thinking that. Like, why is Instagram adding this update? Like, I had that question in my head and Katie wrote an article about it. Like, it's perfect. And so I think making sure you always kind of have your thumb on the pulse. And one thing I like to do is I Answer the Public. I like a lot too. I tend to forget to go there just because it's one more like place to go. But I spend a lot of my time in Instagram in the explore page. So I'll go in and I will type in a topic and it'll basically like a Google search, but inside of Instagram, and it will bring up content that people have created around that topic. And I'll use that as inspiration. And then I also like to go into some of the larger accounts that I follow and not even their content, but I go into the comments of what other people are saying about the content they're posting, because that's where the audience is, that's where the people are. And that's where you'll have people that are like, why are we doing this? We don't need an update. I really want an update on X, Y, or Z. Like, I wish they would, get rid of 60-second stories. I don't like them. I want 15-second stories, whatever. So I want to hear what are the people saying, not just what are the experts putting out there that I can then replicate, but what is it that the audience is really wanting? And then I use that to create ideas, and I just keep them in like a running list under each of my pillars. And that way, when it's time for me to batch, I'm like, oh yeah, I have like these 12 ideas under social media marketing that I can then turn into content.
Yeah. And I think that too, we're talking about batching your content. And I think that some people might be like, man, this is a lot. But once you kind of get into this system, it makes it a lot easier for you to never run out of ideas. You're never stuck posting a random picture of your dog again or what you had for lunch. Everything makes sense. And every time this is where you don't need to post every single day, because every time you show up, you're answering someone's question, you're solving their problem. It's talking about your business, how to work with you. So when you go in strategically, you have this batched content, you can always make sure that you're staying, with your finger on the latest trend. It makes it so that you can, again, have that freedom back with the rest of your business. You're not going to be turning into a social media influencer or a content creator. So,
and I will say, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I say too, like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, okay, this is a lot, like you were saying, I also want you to keep in mind that this is something you create a habit around. It's not something that like you just wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden you are in this habit of looking for content ideas. You have to create this habit to where like now, like you and I, Katie, like it's kind of second nature. Like we know that when something pops up on our feed, or we see a news article, or we see an email come through, we're kind of always scanning for ideas. But I had to train myself to look for those. And so if you're new to this and you're thinking, okay, I want to get to the point where I have all these ideas kind of saved up, then do little steps to create that habit. Go
Yeah.
into your Instagram with the intention of, for 10 minutes a day, I'm going to look for content ideas, or start saving emails in your inbox and make it a habit. And then eventually, down the line, it'll all be second nature. And this won't even be something you even like consciously realize you're doing.
Yeah. And I think that too, using a scheduler is a great tool to help you batch your content. As the listeners of the Rocky Mountain Marketing Podcast know, I'm a huge fan of Loomly. It is a great tool.
You have converted
reels.
me.
I've converted Miss Kendra. But I mean, like if you don't want to use something like Loomly, there's other apps out there. There's Later. If you want to check out Flick that I was just talking about earlier for the hashtag research and analysis, they also have a built-in scheduler. So if you don't want to be paying for two different softwares and you're like, well, I really like what you guys were saying about, analyzing your posts, I'm going to go check out Flick. You can use Flick to also schedule your posts. And I have a link for that on my website under favorite tools. If you guys are ever interested in anything that we talk about, I always try to add it onto the website, and we'll add it here in the notes to the podcast. But those are the first three steps, and we're going to get to step 4 here in just now. So using that scheduler, is not step 4, but I think it will make things much easier. Step 4 is actually writing the captions, and this can be the hardest part. I think not all the stuff we talked about before, not the brainstorming, not the content pillars. Really, the content pillars, once you have those figured out, is basically done for a very extended period of time, until you maybe decide to change your business up a bit. But content pillars are basically, once you set it, you can forget it. Brainstorming and looking at analytics, that's kind of something that you can check in on like once a month, see what's working, what's not working, and actually brainstorming new ideas. That's something that you always should be doing. Like Kendra said, you can go in for 10 minutes a day while you're engaging and be like, okay, this is what other people are doing. I'm just going to save it to my notes. Number 4 is actually writing the captions. So now that you have all these great ideas for new content, it's really time to start writing good captions. And the most important part that I think, if you don't write anything else in your Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever social media platform of your choices, if you write nothing else in here, you need to have a hook. It's that first line that stops the scroll and it draws your audience's attention in to make them stop scrolling. So you want to use words and writing styles that will compel them to click see more. Those 3 little dots and see more. You want to have the hook to entice them to click see more.
Well, and I think you gave a perfect example of a hook a minute ago with your title of like, why did Instagram create another update? Or why did Instagram feel like we wanted another update? Like anything that kind of piques interest or curiosity, or that is like, another good one is like 3 tips to do blank, or 3 ways to solve X, Y, or Z. Like anything that you are doing that's going to make people go, ooh, I want to know like 3 tips. That's great. I always like quick, easy tips. Or yeah, why does Instagram keep updating this? Like I want to find out. So maybe she knows the answer. So again, you have to kind of get into the mind of your audience and go, what is going to get them excited enough to click those 3 dots or to click that read more? Because even on Instagram, you only get like a couple, like that 1 line, and then they have to click to see the rest. So it's like an email subject line. If your email subject line just says great info inside,
Katie's latest newsletter.
Yes. Sorry, Katie. I love you. I'm not opening that email.
No, I mean, I wouldn't open it either.
So you want to make sure it's enticing enough that it does create interest, curiosity, excitement, and that you deliver on whatever it is that you say in that first line also.
And I think that too, with that first line, you want to have the hook, that hook to get them to see more. But once you've, enticed them to see more, don't just leave it with 1 long giant paragraph. Use those line breaks. Instagram now, you don't need to put those little dots in there anymore. You can actually hit the return or the enter button to give line breaks. But keep in mind that the majority of people who are looking at your content are skimming it. They're looking at it very quickly. What in this does applies to me? What stands out for me? They're just looking for the keywords that stand out to them. So whether they want to see just quickly their answer, they want to see a statistic, or like for all the real estate agents out there. Oh, wait, it said real estate agents. Wait, hold on. I'm a real estate agent. Why do I want to read this? Hold on. I know I clicked see more, but now I kind of really want to actually read the whole thing. Keep in mind that people are skimming it for those keywords that stand out to them. So use the line breaks and make it very easy to read. And I think that also emojis can help kind of stop somebody while they're skimming. Like, oh wait, why are they doing this laughing emoji? Did they say something funny? So and then always, always, always call to action at the end. What do you want people to do with this post?
Yeah. So I have two thoughts on that. One is, I think the idea of the line breaks and keeping it really easy to read is not just for social media. I know when I open an email from someone, if it is one giant paragraph, I immediately click away.
Yeah.
But if it is like short, little, easy to consume sentences, or one or two sentence paragraphs, or they have a bulleted list. And I've had someone tell me this before. They're like, I love when you do your Instagram post and you put the like little emoji numbers of like 3 ways to grow your email list. And then I do emoji 1 and I give it 2, 3. And they're like, it just visually makes it really easy for people to consume. And so all those things make it really easy. And then your call to action, I cannot say this, like emphasize this enough, how important the call to action really is, because I see people all the time who are like, I'm putting out great content, but nobody's engaging with it. And then I go look at their content and they're not asking people to engage with it. Or their call to action is something that requires people to like give a super thoughtful response. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I love Instagram, but people are not going on there to give a thoughtful response. They want a quick, easy way, whether it's like this post, share this post, drop an emoji in the comments if you agree, give me a thumbs up, like something simple to train your audience to engage. And then you can maybe come in later with a little bit more of the thoughtful, thought-provoking calls to action. But I had a reel recently where I literally said at the end of the reel, follow for more tips. And I had over 40 new followers just from that one reel, because I spelled it out for them. It's like going back to my teaching days of like, first graders. It's like, oh, you want me to put the scissors away? I have to actually say, go put your scissors away, so tell them what you want them to do.
Yeah. And I think that too, like this is one of the things where I will have different posts go out and I will say like, save this post for later, share this with somebody that needs the a subtle reminder, or that could use this reminder, comment below if you've ever blank, blank, blank. I mean, like exactly with what you said, don't try and tell them to do all the like comment and save. Don't tell them to do too many things. Realize like carousel posts, those are great ones to tell people to save for later. So, or reels, make sure to like this post or make sure to follow for more tips. Those are great, calls to action for reels. So I think go in strategically with your call to action at the end and know like, I'm okay if this post only gets like 40 likes, but it ends up having 400 saves. That's what I wanted people to do with it.
Yeah. So I want to kind of, before we wrap this up today, I want to kind of go over a couple of things that I've seen people either have questions about when it comes to batching, or that they kind of get stuck on when it comes to batching. So one is, especially when it comes to recording video, the idea of batching is just keep it simple. Like set your phone up somewhere, make sure you have an idea of what it is you're going to work on that in that period. So if you're recording something, if you're recording reels or maybe YouTube videos, like have a list going in of these are the 5 videos I want to make sure I get done in this sitting. And then know going into it what it is you want to do for each one. So you're not sitting there for half an hour going, oh yeah, there was this audio I wanted to use and I don't remember how they used it. Have all of that done and ready to go.
Yep.
And then the other thing is I see this question asked a lot with reels is if you're using trending audios and you batch record your audios or your reels, then what happens if by the time you get ready to share that reel, the audio is not trending anymore? So what I usually say to that is one, right now, at the time of this recording, now this could all change tomorrow, who knows? But at the time of this recording, Instagram has even said that they are really kind of emphasizing original audio. So I don't worry. And even if something is trending 2 weeks ago and I hop on the trend 2 weeks later, it doesn't bother me. Like, I'm not someone who is so concerned with trends. And I encourage people not to focus too much on trends and focus more on just getting the content that your audience is going to want. And that it doesn't matter if it's something valuable and the trend is already over or, past its prime, but it's valuable, your audience is still going to want to engage with it. So don't let that be something that stops you. So going into it with a plan and then not worrying about, when this goes out in 2 weeks, is it still going to be trending? Because as long as it's value-based, it's fine.
Well, and with what you said too, Kendra, I mean, with the original content on Instagram and original audio, it actually is making things easier for us to batch our content, because then we don't have to worry about constantly being on there and looking for that trending audio. So this is where, like, in my, social media scheduler, I have in there, all of my reels with me talking or my original audio. There are set ready to go. I have the captions written and everything. But then I have in there too, like once a week, trending audio, reel with trending audio, which is the one I posted recently with the little like typing thing. But that was a trending audio. So I already knew, like, going into the day, I'm going to be looking for some trending audio, and I'm going to create a post about it. But I knew that that's how I was going to be spending my social media time for the day. And I could spend that time creating an original reel or a new reel with trending audio, because everything else was already batched for the rest of the week. So I think that using a social media scheduler is one of the best tools that you can have, no matter if it's you doing your social media, an assistant, if you have a marketing team. Implementing one of those helps take away so much of the overwhelm and can help you really take away some of the headaches that can come with social media and thinking about, well, what the heck am I going to post today?
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And as always, you can find any links or resources mentioned in today's show down in the show notes. And if we're not friends outside of the podcast yet, then what are you waiting for? Come find me on Instagram at Girl Means Business and send me a DM letting me know what you thought of today's episode or any of the past episodes you've listened to. You can also take a screenshot of today's episode and post it to your stories, tagging at Girl Means Business, and I'll give you a shout out on my page. I love connecting with you and hearing all about your business and can't wait to get to know you more. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will meet you back here next week, same time, same place.